Rise, man.
The Force will be with you.
Always.
Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. So I just finished watching Chapter 11 of The Mandalorian, Season 2, Episode 3. So this is the way that this video is going to work. I'm going to first of all give my spoiler-free review, and then I'm going to do a full scene-by-scene breakdown with Easter eggs and things you may have missed. You'll then be given a 10-second warning before I go into full spoiler mode, and that should give you plenty of time to click away from the video if you do not want to be spoiled because you haven't seen the episode yet. After the breakdown, I'm going to speak generally about the themes of the episode, what we can expect next, and then I'll give my closing remarks and final thoughts. So without too much further ado, and without any more jibber jabber, let's get into it. So we're going to begin with my spoiler-free review. So going into the episode, I didn't really know what to expect. We knew we'd be heading to Trask, and that frog lady needs to find her husband. We also knew we would see Sasha Banks' character, but ultimately we didn't know where the episode plot was heading, and little else was known. But let me tell you that this episode, in my opinion, was absolutely amazing. Star Wars at some of its finest, and bringing different elements of the franchise together while also keeping new fans riveted and on the edge of their seats throughout. This episode was by far one of my most favourite Mandalorian episodes ever, and that's taking into account both seasons 1 and 2. So I thought the character development was completely on point, the element of surprise was sustained throughout, and the suspense was maintained flawlessly. I almost wanted to applaud right at the end when it ended, and honestly I thoroughly loved it, and the writing was spectacular. So by comparison, last week's episode, Chapter 10, was really cool. Chapter 9 before that was awesome, but for me, this has been the best episode of the season so far. Chapter 11 was, to put it simply, incredible. Okay guys, so that is my spoiler-free review without any details of the episode or the plot, and now you have 10 seconds to turn away because I'm about to get into the full episode breakdown with Easter eggs. The episode starts with a shot from the trailer. This is where the Razor Crest is headed over a planet towards a moon. This is the moon of Trask, and we see that everyone aboard, which is Frog Lady, Baby Yoda and Mando, are all sleeping. So they prepare for a risky landing as they approach Trask, but they have some technical difficulties, so it's going to be a bumpy landing, something very common it seems in Season 2. So we then see a shot of a Mon Calamari looking up into the sky, and this is obviously a callback to Admiral Akbar's species and also the planet of Mon Cala. Now I will say there are a lot of parallels between the moon of Trask and Mon Cala in terms of its population. There are lots of Quarrens and Mon Calamari, and it just calls into question how come is this so similar as a water planet to Mon Cala itself. So anyway, Trask Flight Control contacts Mando to ask him to reduce his speed for landing, but he cannot do so. So they crash land into the sea after an initial little bit of hope that they could actually control the Razor Crest as it landed. And then we finally see the title screen, Chapter 11, and the episode is titled The Heiress. I think at this point it's quite relevant to mention the fact that this episode was directed by Bryce Dallas Howard, and she does an absolutely phenomenal job with the writing of this episode. So after the title screen, we then see the Razor Crest being lifted out of the water, and they are greeted by the Mon Calamari we saw earlier, and he happens to be a dock worker who Mando asks to help him with the ship. He says he sees what he can do, gives him 1,000 credits, and then the Mon Calamari basically implies that all he's going to do is fill it up because there's nothing he can do with the old ship. And then we see a little bit of heartwarming romance as Frog Lady unites with her husband, and it's kind of sweet music playing in the background because they haven't seen each other in a long time. Baby Yoda is quite adorable as always in this episode, and at this point he's hungry. So then Mando asks the Frogman, who is Frog Lady's husband, to lead him to members of his kind, i.e. the Mandalorians. We then see Sasha Banks from the trailer, exactly the same sequence, the same scene, and she vanishes. So Frogman and Frog Lady lead Mando into an inn. We see a bunch of Quarren drinking and eating, and one of the Mon Calamari who works there asks Mando what he wants to eat. He then orders some chowder for Baby Yoda, and when he refuses to eat, the Mon Calamari gets a bit upset and says everyone who sits here has to eat something. So Mando then says that if he's seen others who look like him, that would be a big help, and he gives him some money. The Mon Calamari says that he knows someone who can help. So we then see the Mon Calamari going into the back and speaking with one of the Quarren. That same Quarren goes up to Mando's table and says that he can help him, he can take him by boat, but it won't be cheap. So we then see the boat from the trailer. Again, they're kind of playing out all of the rest of the trailer in this episode, which means from here on out it's going to be unknown territory. But hey, that is super exciting. So while on the boat, a Quarren asks if Mando has ever seen a mamacore eat. Mando at first doesn't seem very interested in this, but the Quarren convinces him by saying that the child, Baby Yoda, could be very fascinated in seeing this. So they get a bunch of fish to lure the mamacore in, and as the mamacore comes out, the Quarren pushes Baby Yoda in. Mando dives into the water to Baby Yoda's rescue, and it's at this point that the Quarren reveal that they just wanted Mando for his Beskar. They then lock the cage of the boat, and Mando's basically stuck. They lock him in. And then out of nowhere, Bo-Katan Kryze appears. I was baffled. What an incredible, amazing moment. No one expected it. No one saw it coming. Everyone was hyper-focused on the fact that Baby Yoda was now basically at the hands of the mamacore and he needed rescuing. So then she appears with 2 other Mandalorians. Bo-Katan, being a badass, kicks the hell out of the Quarren and gives Mando her hand and says, "Take my hand." She rescues Mando and they save Baby Yoda too. So then we see the other 2 Mandalorians side by side with Bo-Katan. They take off their helmets, and it's at this point that's revealed that the other female Mandalorian with her on her right is actually Sasha Banks' character, confirming in fact that she is not playing Sabine Wren but instead a female Mandalorian called Koska Reeves. Mando is baffled when they take off their helmets and says that they're not real Mandalorians if they reveal their faces. Bo-Katan introduces herself as the last of her line. She tells Mando that he is a child of the Watch, and the only reason he is bothered by the fact that they took off their helmets is that he is a child of the Watch, a group of religious zealots that broke away from Mandalorian society to try and enforce the ancient way of the Mandalorians. At this point, Mando kind of sees them as not an enemy, but someone he doesn't really vibe with as a Mandalorian, because he's not seeing them as legitimate Mandos. And he says there's only one way, the way of Mandalore, which he believes that they have to keep their helmets on. So anyway, the 3 shoot up off into the sky from the exploding boat as Mando watches on in the sunset. A really cool shot. So on the docks of Trask later that night, Mando is confronted by Quarrens who are mad that he killed their brother on the boat. And then suddenly the 3 Mandalorians from earlier appear to save him. They epically kill the Quarrens in front of Mando and Baby Yoda, and Bo-Katan offers Mando a drink. So then we cut to them at the inn, drinking and eating, and they're speaking while all of this is going on. Bo-Katan then tells Mando her intentions and why she's there. She tells Mando that Trask is a black market port. She tells him that Mandalorians are stronger together and that she needs his help. Bo-Katan informs Mando that they're there to seize weapons that were bought and sold with the plunders of their planet, and that she's there to seize the weapons and use them to take power on Mandalore. Of course, we know that her ultimate desire is to take the Darksaber, but this is not revealed until later in the episode, and that of course is the weapon she needs to take power on Mandalore once more. Mando basically tells her that he has a mission of his own to bring back Baby Yoda the child to a member of the Jedi. Now this is the moment that gave me goosebumps and chills. Bo-Katan tells him that she can lead them to one of the Jedi. At this point my mind was shouting Ahsoka, 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 because who else would be in relation to Bo-Katan at this point in the timeline? But the caveat is he has to help them with their mission first. So of course he agrees. So then they cut to a shot again on the docks where they're looking at an Imperial Gozanti freighter with weapons on board, and they discuss their plan. So then Mando leaves the child with Frog Lady and Frogman while he's off, doing Mandalorian business. This scene is also very important because it shows a fatherly side to Din Djarin, and he tells Baby Yoda to mind his manners and be respectful. Something that a parent tells their child when they leave them with family members or friends, or if they're at a play date. So that was quite a cute little moment, and the music was very symbolic of a more gentle side to Din Djarin's character. There was this kind of duality between the action sequences and his love and desire to care for the child. Now also, while Baby Yoda is with Frog Lady and Frogman, the first egg hatches. This is a very cute moment. And then we cut back, of course, to the docks where the freighter takes off. So the Mandalorians sneak up on stormtroopers, and we also get a look at Imperial officers inside. Now this is a moment, there was a big callback that I don't know if you caught it, but I did, and this was a callback to the siren sound we hear in the opening scene of Star Wars A New Hope from 1977, the original Star Wars film. We hear that exact siren. That was such a cool callback, and it brought back memories to the first time I was introduced to Star Wars and A New Hope. Also quite noteworthy is that the officer on the right hand side of the screen, or on the left hand side of the other officer, looks remarkably like Admiral Conan in terms of his body language, his jawline. You know, personally I'm not sure if they did this deliberately, but there does seem to be a striking resemblance. And in case you don't know, Admiral Conan was from A New Hope. So next we see the Mandalorians actually break into the freighter, and Bo-Katan, again being a badass, beats up a stormtrooper. Such a cool scene. It was such an amazing action sequence. The officer is very aware of this, communicate to the other officer in a different part of the freighter, and he is told to hold them off until they can make the leap into hyperspace. A few moments later, the officer informs the captain that they have them in the cargo control room, which then turns out to be a completely foolish idea as they are dispensed out of the freighter as well as some stormtroopers. When the Mandalorians get the weapons, Mando thinks it's over, but Bo-Katan reveals a surprise that she wants to take control of the entire ship because she's looking for the one weapon she genuinely needs to rule Mandalore, the Darksaber. It was never about the other weapons, it was all about that one because she thought it might have been on board. And then we finally get to see Moff Gideon as a hologram appearing to the other officers as they inform him of what's gone on. Moff Gideon says that if what he told him is true, then he knows what he needs to do given the situation at hand. The officer shoots the two colleagues and takes control of the ship himself to take it down intentionally. The Mandalorians break in though and take control of the ship themselves as Bo-Katan threatens the officer and asks him where the Darksaber is. He says to her, "If you're asking, then you already know." It seems at this point that Mando has fulfilled his role in doing as much as he could at this stage to help out with Bo-Katan's mission. So then he asks her where he can find the Jedi. Bo-Katan tells Mando to take Baby Yoda to the city of Cara Dune on the forest planet of Corvus. There he will find Ahsoka Tano. So we finally hear her name and we have confirmation we are going to see Ahsoka Tano in live action form in the flesh. The rumours were true, the speculation was correct, we are going to see her. She also tells Mando to say that Bo-Katan sent him. So then he returns to the docks, grabs Baby Yoda where he's helping the frogs nurse their first baby frog, and then they return to the Razor Crest. It shakily takes off. Mando is scorning the Mon Calamari because he paid a high price and he believes they didn't do anything meaningful to the ship whatsoever. The episode ends when Mando saves Baby Yoda from a creepy crawly octopus kind of creature, and he says that it's going to be a very bumpy ride to where they're headed, which is to Corvus, where they're going to find Ahsoka Tano. So that is the full episode breakdown, my friends. It was a much shorter episode than I thought it was going to be, but it did not disappoint. It was full of action and it was an incredible episode. I do also want to reiterate the fact that the male Mandalorian was called Axe Wolves. This is not revealed until quite late in the episode, and I'm sure there's an entire backstory with him and the female Mandalorian, who is played by Sasha Banks, whose name is Cosca Reeves. As for the themes of this episode, it seems that parenthood played such a huge role, with the frog lady and the frog husband nursing their first frog baby that hatched, with Djarin being very fatherly towards Baby Yoda, feeding him, making sure he's looked after, telling him to have manners, raising him basically. I think that plays a huge underlying role in this season. And I do believe they are setting up something big further down the line. I do think he's going to have to face a huge test. It seems that he's very adamant to hold on to his Mandalorian traditions, but I think that's going to be tested at some point, where perhaps Baby Yoda is threatened to be taken away from him, and he's got to make a huge decision. I can definitely see that being the way they're going with this whole parenthood theme in Season 2. Other than that, I can't really complain. I'm really happy that we're finally on task to seeing Ahsoka Tano. I'm really aching to see her at this point. I didn't even expect to see Bo-Katan at all in this episode, so that was a nice little surprise, even more of a surprise than seeing Sasha Banks' character. So now I leave it over to you guys. What did you think of this episode? Did it meet your expectations? How would you rate it? And let me know all of your thoughts in the comments down below. So I'm Star Wars Meg, wishing you a phenomenal rest of the day, no matter where you dwell in the galaxy. Have a good one.